All right, we're gonna call the first budget committee meeting to order on May 8th, 2024. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
And Denise, can we get a roll call, please?
Carol Kaiser Worthy. Lindsay Park. Here. Lori Huntman. Melanie Wagner. Here. Helena Snyder. Here. Tom McEnany. Here. Director Walper.
Here.
Director Johnston.
Here.
Director Martinez.
Here.
Director Shibahara.
Here.
Director Berman. Vice Chair Wheeler.
Here.
And Chair Rydell.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Big one. All right, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here on this beautiful sunshiny day. So I'm gonna pass it over to Superintendent Carpenter for some opening remarks.
Are we supposed to do?
Elect president first.
Oh,
Sorry.
never mind, I'm not gonna pass it to Superintendent Carpenter.
It does have my name on it, though. I'm with you.
That's what I was looking at, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so to kick off the budget season, budget process, actual budget process, we need to elect a presiding officer for the 2024-2025 budget. So do we have any nominations out there for a presiding officer?
I'll nominate Helena Schneider.
We have a nomination for Helena Snyder. And I'm not hearing any others. Helena, are you willing and able to fulfill the duties of presiding officer?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, last call for nominations for presiding officer. Then we vote, right? Okay, all in favor?
Motion carries.
All right, we also need to, so I'm gonna pass this off to you.
You got big shoes to fill, too. Elena, you got big shoes to fill, too, because, yeah. Lindsay Park is the best budget president I have ever had.
I agree. It's just entertaining.
She's
That's
the only
all
one.
it is.
Yeah.
Walking, I was walking Liam's game when.
Okay,
Tom, I'm gonna like
Can
to
you
Alright.
nominate you for the.
so we also need to elect an alternate presiding officer. So I need nominations for that.
I'd like to nominate Melanie Wagner, please.
Any other nominations? Melanie, are you able and capable of handling the alternate
I am.
presiding officer position?
Yes, I am. I'm willing.
All right. So with that, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposition?
Motion carries.
Thank you. So next up, we have the budget message from Superintendent Carpenter.
All right, very good. And I'm going to take a couple minutes just to read the opening message, and then I have a couple slides, right, that I can go over as well. So good evening to the Estacada Executive Board of Directors and its Budget Committee, as well as the Estacada School District community watching live tonight on our YouTube channel. Excited to have the opportunity to share the proposal of the first iteration of the school district's budget for year 2024-2025 that we are presenting here. We have had the opportunity to reflect on the successes of the past year, as well as envision where we would like our school district to be 1 year from now. Our collective efforts have yielded remarkable outcomes, from academic success and improvement to accolades in the arts and athletics. Estacada Schools continues to function as a service-oriented organization, and we are always working to improve our services to our students, staff, and families. Looking ahead to the 2024-25 school year, we stand at the threshold of some exciting opportunities to continue to improve and excel. As stewards of our community's trust and resources, we approach the budgeting process with careful consideration and commitment to fiscal responsibility. Our budget reflects financial priorities that are centered around providing every single student with the access to a high-quality education that prepares them for success in an ever-changing world. Each financial decision has been considered and measured to ensure that it maximizes an academic return on investment. Together, we will ensure that the Estacada School District remains an organization of excellence for generations to come. So thank you for your continued support and partnership as we continue this journey together. The core values of the Estacada School District is particularly focused on the 5 core pillars of our strategic plan. We are completing year 1 of our newest iteration of our strategic plan. And our 5 pillars are successful students, people and culture, engaged families and community, safety and operational services, and sustainable finances and accountability. What we are doing tonight is a core tenet of our strategic plan and our promise to this community. As we complete the school year and prepare for the next, I wanted to share with both the board, the budget committee, and our community just how we're doing this year in accordance to our benchmarks towards the strategic plan. Starting first with successful students, our goal is that all students demonstrate proficiency in every essential learning standard. Because the school year is not over yet, this is still a work in progress, but we are making improvement, reaching towards our goals. One of the things that's an area of point of emphasis for us as we plan for and budget for next year is how we can continue to improve the student culture kindergarten through 12th grade throughout our organization. Out of 5 stars, our students have rated the culture, student-to-student culture in Estacada 3.79 stars out of 5, which is our lowest area. The number 1 lowest performing area in this spot is how students treat each other. And so as we prioritize the 24-25 budget, we want to make sure that our budgeting priorities focus on the voice of our students and the areas that we need room for growth inside our strategic plan. Outside of that, things are going exceptionally well for year 1 of our 5-year strategic plan. When asked about our employees and their satisfaction working for the Estacada School District, that is up 0.04, 4.08 out of 5. When asking our parents, are they satisfied sending their children to the Estacada School District, we broke a brand new record this year, scoring a 4.11 out of 5. We have never been over 4 in our time measuring this, and so we're proud to operate and offer a service our parents can be proud of. We are committed to best-in-class service, and the people who receive our services score us a 4.4 out of 5. We continue to excel in service and customer service satisfaction. And then last but not least, we are seeing great improvements in building financial trust and financial transparency throughout our financial accountability pillar. And this is our greatest improvement, going from 3.75 to 3.85, ultimately hitting the meaningful movement benchmark we set for ourselves at the beginning of the year. And so I'm proud to share today to our community that things are going well inside the school district, and we are on our way towards hitting the 5-year benchmarks of this strategic plan. To add icing to that cake, we've also become an award-winning school district. And when I talk about employee satisfaction, Estacada celebrated this year the 4th consecutive year in a row of being honored a top workplace. Once we had 2 in a row, we were the only public institution to ever receive that award. We are in record-breaking territory now for 4 consecutive years, and we are so proud of that. Also, last year's budget got us a national certification award for the budget that was passed, and we also received state recognition. Only 13 school districts in the state of Oregon received an award for the budget. We were one of those 13 and very proud to be a part of that. One of the new things that we prioritized this year was trying to truly track our academic return on investment. In the business world, people talk regularly about what the return on investment is when we talk about profits and profit margins and investments. In the public sector, that is not something that is frequently talked about. We just put money in places and then close our eyes and wish. It's better than that, but I want it to be dramatic for dramatic effect. This year, we truly wanted to prioritize every single dollar, and was it indeed doing what we wanted it to do, particularly when it came to our new investments. And so we've been monitoring things in general that have really costed us about $20,000 or more. If we invested $20,000 into something, we've started to measure, is it doing what we wanted it to do? This is rare for our industry to do that, and I'm very proud because this allows us to tell our community how these investments are doing. And I just wanted to point out that in the green, as we look at the effect size of some of these investments, some of them are doing well, while others of them are making small, slow, or minimal gains at the same time. I'm only going to highlight 3 of those today. The first is our commitment to lunch recess monitors. In this last budget, we spent $78,998 on hiring 8 lunch recess monitors at the elementary and middle levels. Why did we do this? Because when it's lunchtime, our teachers are experiencing their contractual off-duty breaks, and we've asked our paraeducators to monitor lunch and recess. The problem with this is when they're monitoring recess, there are other classes going on at the elementary school at the same time. And so we literally have been pulling our classroom support resources to support what's happening in the lunchroom and cafeteria. And so our employees, through their voice, told us that if we could keep the paraeducators in the classroom and have somebody else monitor the lunch and recess, then we would be able to see an increase in student achievement because we have the help in the classroom. Time on task is a better way to say that. And so I'm excited to share with you today, and you can see the bar graph of how we've been tracking that over the course of year. We've been seeing students who are not proficient. You can see that the at-risk students is actually declining over time, meaning more students are passing their classes. So we're seeing an effect size of 0.14 for that investment. Things are going very well there. We're going to continue that investment is our proposal. Another good example is adding an additional hour to our paraeducators. This additional hour cost us roughly $15,000, but it's more time for our employees. And the reason why behind this was our paraeducators and our classroom teachers were telling us they don't have a lot of time to collaborate and discuss lesson plans, what to do with kids, and strategize the day or the week ahead. And so this additional hour, which is on the Read Day Fridays, gives the teacher, learning specialist, and the paraeducators 1 hour's time to have the opportunity to make a game plan and a strategy for the week to come as we try to tackle that. You can see when you look at the number of students who were affected, which is 235 students on an IEP who we've added these hours towards, you can see that our students on special education, individual education plans, they are passing more classes today than they were at the beginning of this investment. So we're seeing good academic return on this investment. Here's a fun one, and it's one I'm going to end with because it is unpopular in today's world for me to say this, and I'm talking about pre-kindergarten. Pre-K is a very popular hashtag trending thing inside public education. You're not cool unless you have your own pre-K program. And school districts across the country are rapidly trying to get pre-K programs going. We've had pre-K inside the Estacada School District now for 3 years. The state doesn't pay per kid in pre-K like it does kindergarten through 12th grade. And so the district has made its own decision to use its general fund dollars to provide this service to our community. And so this year, we spent $83,203 to serve 27 kids inside a pre-kindergarten program. And we've done that now for 3 years. So that times 3 is about $250,000 are we into this investment. And as we've been very meticulously tracking this data, here is some fun evidence. We are finding that kids who went to this pre-K program and kids who did not go to this pre-K program are performing at about the same level. So there's not an academic advantage to going to this pre-K program as it is to not go to this pre-K program. However, we are also tracking the data of people who went to other pre-K programs like the Red Barn, so many different daycare services here in Estacada and beyond, Head Start maybe in Sandy. We're noticing that the students who went to the Red Barn or to the place across from Pierce Street or to Head Start out in Sandy, they are actually performing worse than kids who did not go to pre-K, and they are performing worse than kids who went to our pre-K program. And so we're going to continue to track this, but the affect academically of a pre-K program is not yielding the academic results that we are pumping into this. And this is why having this academic return on investment is going to be critical for us. This isn't the only indicator that we would use to make this decision, but it is one indicator that we should use as we think about how we make big financial decisions like this. I do want to point out, because I don't want the pre-K world to get aggressively angry at me, that there are so many other things that we are also measuring that are beneficial inside this pre-K program. Like, for example, understanding school routines and behaviors is better than students who are not a part of this program. Our ability to identify students who may or may not have a disability early helps us support them sooner rather than later. So there are a myriad of great things too, but if we truly want to correlate this investment to achievement, we are not seeing the results in that just yet. So those are 3 examples of how our school district continues to track and monitor the taxpayer money. So as we take innovative risks, as we take educated risks, and as we try our best to meet the needs of the modern learner, this is just a great example of just a few of the things that we're trying. And I'm excited to report back to you and our community with transparency how those innovative investments are going. So I'm going to stop to see if there are any questions for your superintendent, and then I will empower our business manager to go through the line items transparently to our community and to you.
Ryan, for the pre-K,
Yep.
when they go into kindergarten, you said you're not seeing a difference academic, just based on standards, but you are seeing behavioral
Yes.
differences.
Yep, we are seeing behavioral improvements. We're seeing a quickness to the readiness of routines. We actually are seeing improved patterns of behavior of positive interaction between kid and kid. And one of the things that I also think needs to be mentioned in that question is the excellent performance of our teachers as well, because early on, even if there is a slight disparity, which you'd see, it's not big, it's a minimal disparity between kids who went to pre-K, advantage, kids who didn't go to pre-K, disadvantage, but our teachers work pretty hard to close gaps. That's what they do, is close gaps. And so even as we identify those gaps, the data is telling us that gap gets eliminated almost immediately. Yeah.
Are we, and I couldn't read the bar graph at the bottom, but do we continue to track, so is that just months?
Yeah.
Yep, months
Okay.
of this year.
Months
Yep.
of this year. It would be interesting if we could do it in a way that's not super cumbersome, but to look at kids as a cohort that went through pre-K?
We have.
As we continue to go, right, to
Yep.
see if there's a performance
We
difference
have
down the road.
what would you call them, the ground zero kids, or the test trial kids at the beginning are now third graders.
Okay.
And we've got their longevity the whole time. And it's also, that data is also proving that we've already either closed the gap or it's right there, which is good that we've closed the gap, but it's just not showing that going to pre-K is an advantage,
Got it.
our pre-K. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
I'll just reiterate that in my world, pre-K is all the talk of all the charter schools as
Yeah.
well, so.
Yep.
Everybody's starting a pre-K school.
Okay. Then at this point,
Any other questions for Ryan before we move on? Okay. Take it over, Christina.
Thank you. Okay, gonna go in and give you some details of how our 2024-25 proposed budget was built. And just a note for our community that is listening, our budget was released last Tuesday, April 30th, and we did receive comment from our budget committee, and we will be going through those questions. The 2024-25 budget is built on the governor's budget of 10.2. It is the second year of the biennium, so we are at the 51 split. We are using our March 25th estimate from ODE. We also have fully funded Measure 98, which is about 800 per EDMW. We're fully funded for our Student Investment Plan, or SIA plan. And we also have our high school grant, which should be starting this summer, about $2.4 million. I'm talking about our ads compared to last year's adopted budget. We talked a little bit about this at the last time, so I'll briefly go through it. We are looking at adding elementary support for the first 30 days. Mainly helping our kindergarten, our new kindergartners incoming. We're adding for our middle school and our unified sports and athletic budget, including stipends, coaching stipends. We've added 1.0 FTE counselor at Clackamas River. This will make so that all of our schools have 2 counselors. We are adding 1.0 in human resources for personnel support specialists to help with the hiring and the support of our staff. We're adding additional dollars for special education support. We'll go a little more detail about that later. We're adding a 0.875 FTE for bilingual para to support our students. We've talked about it, we're seeing utilities increase, so we looked at comparison of what is projected and what we've been spending, and we are adding a 33% increase to our budget. We're also seeing increased fuel costs, so our transportation has asked that we add $25,000 for our transportation fuel. And we talked more, we have a new law that's gone in place, and we are budgeting $550,000 to cover our unemployment. We are unemployed, we have self-managed for our unemployment, so we pay our own claims. And then our property and liability insurance, actually that should be 15%, sorry. We are increasing it by 15% from last year. And this happened during this current year, but it is a change from our last year's adoption. We added 1 FTE to technology this current year. And then we're adding 1.25 to custodian, but one of those was added in our current year. And then again, we already got the ARI on our lunch recess monitors, so we want to continue moving forward with that. So we're going to continue with those 8 positions.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Second one down, adding middle school and unified sports athletic budget. There's also flag football for women's,
Yeah.
volleyball for gentlemen. And there's one more maybe. The deletion of the middle school basketball. So is that just like a swap, or are we gonna see that reduction?
Well, we didn't fund the middle school basketball, so now we are gonna have funding, but we did increase for the volleyball and the flag football.
Oh, the other one was girls wrestling last year.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, that was an increase in this year's budget.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't remember seeing that high point, but.
Yes,
appreciate
great
that.
question. We added that with the supplemental budget. We did give them additional dollars for the girls wrestling this year.
Okay.
And just for the historical sense, middle school athletics was cut, I believe, in 2007. And we've brought it back, I brought it back as the high school athletic director, I think in 2013, but I funded it through the high school's budget, and it has been that way forever. And so now we're just honoring middle school again as its own athletic entity and funding it.
Okay, thank you.
Christina,
Yes.
the only confusion for me is some of them are percentages and some are raw dollars.
Correct.
Those percentages would be nice to see the dollar. I mean, I guess I can do the math, but, or the percentage of added transportation
Yep.
for what that looks like. And then, the 8 positions, is it 19 hours a week, right? Is that 18.75 hours a week?
Yeah, so 0.5 is 20 hours, so just below 20 hours per week, yeah.
That sounds right. And I do want to clarify the 324,000 that Director Johnston is talking about. And this is also innovative, which is why I want to point it out. And everything else, we literally assign like one body to something, right? And so we're able to call that 1.0. But with special education in the changing world, we're actually trying to be more flexible and agile. And so we're basically adding an additional dollar amount to special education because we don't know who is coming into our doors next year. And so if we need to hire an additional full-time nurse to serve a kid with a colostomy bag or something of that nature, they have the ability to be nimble like that. Or if they need to hire 5 more paraeducators. So it's more of a dollar amount, opening up the constraints of what they potentially have so they could say, we need this, let's just move and go get this to support the kid.
Yeah, I was.
And then on
I know
the
what you're asking.
I was-
utilities.
Utilities and
Yeah,
the fuel.
yeah.
It wasn't,
Yep.
yeah,
No,
thanks for
I just
pointing
wanted
that
to
out, but yeah,
intentionally
yeah,
point that
yeah.
out.
And I can share that. At our budget workshop, I did share spreadsheets
Yeah, I
that gave
was-
those amounts, so
that's fine.
I'd be happy to share that again. Yeah. The next is some budget adjustments. For our student investment account, our SIA, we're adding 1 FTE for EL program coordinator. We previously funded this as a general fund position, and it is now coming back as a SIA position. And then a couple of changes that we're making. We had funded, this year, we had in our SIA, funding for a 1 FTE for an interpreter. We're moving that to the general fund this year, partly to make room for the ELL program coordinator. And then we're also moving 1 FTE for nurse, which was in our adopted budget in our ESSER funds, and we no longer are going to have our ESSER funds moving forward, so we're bringing this back to the general fund. And reductions, we're moving our ATOSA, a district improvement coach, from the general fund.
And just to point out again, and we've talked about this a few times when it comes to budget and health of districts. One of the things that we have said repeatedly with those ESSER funds, the COVID money, we didn't just go out and hire a bunch of people.
Yeah.
There were a couple that we did hire specifically, and this is one of those that we hired through those monies that now, so when you've got these districts that have $30 million shortfalls and all of those things,
They hired people.
they hired people, and so, this is one of the people that we actually did hire with those funds, because it
Yeah.
made sense at that point in time, and we need it, so we're just gonna move it over and keep it, and
Yep.
it's a responsible use of the money,
Yep,
so,
thank you.
yep.
And then looking at some of our proposed budget revenues, our beginning fund balance, we're projecting 5.8 million. Our property tax revenue, you'll see it at 9.48 million. And our other local and intermediate revenue is about 1.5 million. Our state school fund, we went through this a little bit, but we're, again, the second year of the biennium. Our portion is just over 30 million. 28.82 million of that is our enrollment, including the charter school. and 1.19 million is our transportation grant. Our ADMW, they look at the highest of the 2 years. Our projected for next year is 3,717.63.
And that includes Summit Charter.
Yes, and they do not break out ours from Summit, and so I'll show you more information on that later. Our projected enrollment, we're continually climbing. You can see where we were at in 2024, and we're projected to keep going up.
Could I say a fun fact?
Yes.
Which should make us excited and nervous all at the same time. We had our annual kindergarten roundup last year. And how we staff and prepare for kindergartners, it's really scientific, so I'm excited to share this with you. I am a doctor. Is we use the number of families who showed up for kindergarten connection or kindergarten roundup, and we times it by 2. And that's what we predict the kindergarten numbers will be, which is like a bellwether, has always proven true. So, follow me along. River Mill, just last week, had 58 kindergartners show up, so that's 100 and something.
16.
And Clackamas River Elementary School had 38 show up. So we are anticipating right now 160, 170 kindergartners, just kindergartners. And by the way, 31 of those kindergartners at River Mill are already coming to us identified in special education. And so it will be a very exciting time in kindergarten next year. Growth.
Current class is 133.
Current class is 133.
That enrollment growth is mostly at the elementary
It's young,
levels, right?
young families, yep.
And we're not seeing the growth and possibly even decline as we move up through the high school.
Yes, correct, yep.
Yeah, I think, I'm not looking at it right now, Ben, you've got it up, but if you look at the, student count, right? Every year that drops off is the lowest year that we have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's
Yeah.
not exact, but it's pretty darn close
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
No, it's 100% right.
It is at 100% now?
Yeah.
So every class that drops off is replaced with a bigger class at the kindergarten
Yes.
level, for 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yes.
So,
We're gonna trade out 118 and get 100 and
180.
something,
Yeah.
plus whatever other kids we gain.
Okay, keep going.
Nope.
It's been a while since I looked at one of the SSF sheets. Does State of Oregon still cap special ed, like
Yes.
11%?
11%.
And we are actually over our 11%.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is where the charter school has been very helpful to us, is because the majority of Summit Charter is not served in special education. And so we've been fortunate enough to be able to, based on how the state uses those numbers, we've been able to include the charter school. And so we've been paid for we've been under a lot, not a lot, but we've been at or under 11% because the whole 3,000 kids keeps us in that threshold. But there are more students going to Summit now served in special education, and there are more students here being served. So we are officially over now. Yep.
Thank you.
So here is our ADMW, because we do receive additional weights for the services our students receive. And on here, you can see for 2024-25, that is the total for both us and the charter school. And then compared to the 2023-24, that is just us. And then, so I put the charter schools numbers for 2023-24 below. And those numbers normally are released for the charter school in the spring. Next. So our proposed budget for all funds, our revenue is increasing 4.8 million, which is 7.74% from our 23-24 adopted. Some of those reasons are continuing SIA is fully funded. We have our high school seismic grant. Our general fund beginning fund balance is increased. You'll see an increase in our property tax revenue. And we also now have our early literacy grant. Taking a look at that, our Our state funding is 54% of our revenue, or 35.6 million. Our local sources is 16.7 million, or 25%. Our instructional services is 31.4 million, or 48% of our expenditures. And our support services is 30%, or 19.9. So support services is transportation, anything in the district's principals, anything that's not directly related to teaching students. Taking a look at our salaries, our total salary and benefits increased by 14%, or 3.8 million. And then looking, here's a proposed budget, all funds. So the 67.4 million is what we're proposing, and it's breaking it down by our appropriation level, 1,000 instruction, 2,000 support services, by all funds. We will not have the trust and agency fund this year.
Christina, can you go back one slide for
Yep.
me, please? On salaries, does this include the new salary schedules that were
Yep.
approved for the upcoming year? Okay,
Yes.
I figured it did, just wanted to make sure.
Yep,
Thank you.
correct. And then looking at just our general fund, and just a note, we did make a correction to our proposed budget on the graph on page B3. I have updated our website, and you should have that in your budget books. The general fund is 47.1 million, which is an increase of 5.1 million, or 12.25%. The increase is in property taxes, which increased 1.8 million from the adopted budget. And our state school fund increased 1.9 million, and our beginning fund balance is increasing 1.1 million from last year.
Do we have any idea on that increase of property taxes, how much that is versus, the increase that we get annually anyway, versus the new homes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's why it is such a big increase, because normally you average and you increase your property taxes about 3%, which is what they do of the assessed value. But we've been growing so much that we've had to jump that up. So that's the 1.9 million, is we're actually taking a look at our historical actuals for the last few years, and we're right-sizing our property taxes. So it is more than the 3% normal because of our growth.
So I would say that's a good estimate.
Yes, exactly. And you'll see when you're looking in there and you look at our actuals, we've been higher than what we've been budgeting for the last few years. So it's time that we start identifying that when we're budgeting. And then looking at our proposed budget, the primary source of revenue is our state school funding at 30.3 million, or 64% of our general fund revenues. Local sources, which is our property taxes, is about 10.2 million, or 22%. And as I was looking, and if you look at last year's compared to this year's, the state school fund, the state source went down a little bit, and the local source went up a little bit. Just like what part of our funding, the more local money we get, the less state money we get. Our salaries and associated payroll costs are about 27.3 million of our general fund, or 58%. Our purchase service, which includes our sub costs, our charter schools, and our payment and utilities, oops, sorry, I don't have the percentage, is 28%. And 86% of our budget is contracted costs, such as the salaries or our utilities, our contracted things, costs that we are moving forward, not our variable cost. Okay, taking a look a little more into the budget. This is on page C1 of your proposed budget, and one of the very first questions I received is noticing there is some differences from what we currently budget to what we're actually ending up. So trying to address that. And we talked a little bit about the property taxes already. We do recognize that our actual revenue is higher than what we're budgeting, and that is why you're seeing a bigger budget in this current year. The next one, admissions, number 7, that is actually projecting to be what we budgeted, so we're right on looking good for that. Line number, did I skip? Nope. Oh, fund balance, number 1. Fund balance is reflected. We are trying to get closer and recognizing the difference. And the budget committee, we also did have a supplemental budget this year to identify our increased budget in the current year. Line number 19, the districts, so they're asking why we have a difference there. And we'll go a little bit more information on that, but we do have I can't read it. We have new fleet cars, and that is why you see a difference there. And then 22 and 23, we did do some adjustments there with board approval in our supplemental budget.
This was one of my questions, and I think what I was just seeing is that there were some pretty large differences between budgeted and projected, like where we think we're gonna, and I was just asking questions, like were these anticipated? Did we learn something during last year's budgeting process that we took into account this year just to be more on target? That was the purpose of the question.
And, yeah, and last year when we were looking at like transfers, for example, we did hold back on some transfers because we did not have a 9.2 budget or a 10.2 budget that we were budgeting at the time. I think we were doing a 9.8 budget. So that is why we did come back with a supplemental budget, is because we were able to come back and recognize some of those expenditures that we reduced during the budget process.
So some of that has already been flushed out.
Yes,
Perfect.
Great question.
yeah.
And transfers too, that line 23 and 24, I think is what it was, or 22,
22,
20.
23, yep.
Those aren't a bad thing.
No.
No.
It's just making sure that we are accounting for where the money is being spent and not
Moving it
throwing money
to the right
over
place.
there just in case we might use it, waiting until we're gonna use it and then transfer it over. So it's a much more transparent way to keep those numbers. So you're not looking at the beginning of the year and you've got all this money in this fund that we're like, where's that gonna go, right? So, so it's
But we do
common.
ballpark that in the budgeting process.
We do
right?
ballpark it,
Yep.
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 And a lot of that then becomes, what do the numbers really look like, and do we get a little bit more like we did last year so that we could spend a little bit more? We just gotta move it from a different fund to cover it.
Yeah.
Which all gets approved.
Yes. And then taking a look at, speaking of transfers, this year's transfers, you'll see what we're projecting. We're projecting a 300,000 food service, 240 transportation. For curriculum adoption, we're keeping it at 300. Tech replacement, to keep our Chromebooks and our staff replaced, for 210. Our turf replacement, which is our turf field, our brand-new turf field, to keep maintenance on that, we're putting in 65,000. Our PERS reserve, will give you a little more information about that, but we're projecting 100,000 on that. And then our biomass filler, we're still making our debt payment on that, and we're projecting 50,000. And then capital improvements, we're asking for 275.
And really quick, just on the turf replacement, $65,000, we're putting that money away every year so that when we do need to replace it,
Correct.
we've got the funds. I don't want people out there thinking that we're spending 65 grand a year to maintain.
But also to add to that, that's only football, not softball field turf replacement.
Correct.
It's the stadium, yeah, it is.
And I don't know if for transparency, at some
Yeah.
point in the budget, it should state football.
Yeah,
So,
good.
Okay. And then this is just information about items or things that we have been funding with our SIA and plan on continuing for next year. Go through that. And the same for our high school success or our Measure 98. And then now I have, I'm very pleased, there were some really great questions, and so I'm just going to try to work my way through them. Please stop me and let me know if you have any questions. One of the questions was, there was some concern last year about moving concern about moving dollars out of the contingency that had already been reserved for PERS. Is that beginning to be addressed with the 100,000 out of the general fund to PERS reserve? And so just a little more information. The district issued our PERS reserve bond and then it's going to expire in 2028. After the bond expires, the district will need to cover those obligations directly. So the bond keeps our PERS rates lower. And so the PERS reserve is a fund to help, we're setting aside to help mitigate the financial impact of when our bond expires. Ideally, if our interest rates drop, we would look at possibly doing another bond, but at this time, that is not a good financial decision.
And this is a different bond, obviously, than a construction bond that goes out to the voters. This is basically taking a loan to offset some of the things, yeah.
We have a time horizon on when we get over the hump on that and we have to stop doing this?
It expires in 2028.
No, but as far as the PERS people, what, tier 1, is that the right?
Oh, a good
We got a
question.
ways to go for them to expire in their,
Not enough of them got gone in COVID?
Yeah, he's asking me to do this.
Great question.
any PERS coming from any school district.
Yeah. No, yeah. I love working hard for people like you, Tom.
Yep.
Yes.
And I also wanted to point out, that was addressing our contingency. You will also see in this proposed budget that we are asking to increase our contingency budget to align with our growing budget. Our contingency is ideally to keep us having money for if for some reason we had an emergency, or you're supposed to have it for the summer months of salary, so we tried to increase that, and it hasn't been increased, I don't think, for 4 or 5 years. So we are asking to increase our contingency.
All right.
The next question, if you can explain why there is such a significant increase in PERS amount this year. My answer is our PERS rates are the same. We still are using the same percentage, but our payroll has gone up. And giving you an example, our 2023-24 payroll was our PERS was 2.3 million, and our salaries was 17.6 million. This current year, we're proposing PERS rates of 2.6 million, and our salaries is 19.6 million. Also, this, not only has our salaries gone up, but also, you're seeing we're hiring some more staff.
But the majority of that is probably because of the union
Yes.
negotiations.
The regularly scheduled.
Yep, correct.
Yep.
Oh, and then here's information about our high school success. Oh, I went down. That's what I did. Sorry. Next question is, why does our rental income continue to go down over the past couple of years? I show here a historical of our rental income. And our main source of income is 2 agreements. One, we have an agreement with Orchid, and they pay for their utilities, and that goes there. And the next is our 2 daycares. We have one at River Mill and Clackamas River. So that is our constant steady at this point. We do have contracts with them. Other times that we get rental agreements is sometimes, we rent out like the middle school for filming, or have small facility uses, but our facilities, we're growing. We don't have as much opportunity for people to rent them because we're using them. So that is another reason.
Good.
The next question, should the bond pass, how will the seismic grant in the high school gym going away play work in the grand scheme of things? This is a great question. I did work with Director Ware on it, and you'll see a response there. This is set to start in the summer of 2025, so we will know for sure what is happening. The high school, the success grant, or seismic grant, will address various projects that are already on our facilities condition assessment. This will enable the district to go back to the oversight committee to redirect bond funds and other essential projects, including infrastructure, support, capacity enhancement, and classroom modernization. So they will work really well hand in hand.
Well, and that gym is not going away.
Correct.
Right.
So,
Correct.
we're still gonna keep that gym. That's
Right.
not being like torn down or anything.
Yeah.
That's a piece of the high school that we will
Correct.
continue to have, right?
The next question is the 240K for the transfer to transportation meet the requirements to purchase new buses? Yeah, this is correct, it does. And we also are looking at something else. Just so Budget Committee and Board knows, the requirement did get extended a year, and at this time, our fleet is in good shape. So transportation is going to use a portion of that transfer to upgrade their current transportation software to a system called Transportant. Adding this program can build several benefits. It's going to provide enhanced safety features, improve efficiency, better communication, data analytics, increase accountability, and increase accessibility features to both district and families.
And the other part too, that, not that we want to spend money in this area that we don't need to spend, but every dollar we spend in this area is reimbursed at a 70% reimbursement
Correct.
rate
That's
over
correct.
a 10-year period of time.
Yep.
So it is, when we need to spend money in there, that's a great place for us to spend money because 70% of it's reimbursed back.
Yep, well said.
Remind me, do districts get fined if they're not abiding by the new bus policy? I don't know what the technical terms are.
They haven't enacted it officially yet. They keep
Extending it?
Yes, but they do claim we will get in big trouble.
When they decide not to extend.
Correct, yes,
And as we decommission a bus, we have to destroy the motor
correct.
to make it greener.
Correct.
So I thought the penalty was you don't get one half price.
That's the propane battery
Oh.
dilemma, yes. This one is by 2025, now 2026, there has to be some type of emission standards on the current buses that we have. And if you don't, we have to pick one board member to go to jail.
I'll tell them what I think.
And so that's where we've been buying buses every year to replace the fleet,
Yeah,
Right.
to meet that requirement. That, we're not even to the next requirement yet.
yeah.
I hesitate even bringing this question up.
Then don't.
What?
It's a big picture of buses and transportation for kids. So there's a lot of talk about the traffic in front of the schools, which I don't necessarily believe it's the, whatever it is, 20 yellow buses. I think it's the 400 Honda Passports and
Yes.
Suburbans and everything else. How often are the bus routes looked at from a efficiency and like if we added one more bus, we would eliminate X amount of cars type of a outlook on things?
Yes. So we look at the routes and the capacity of routes annually, and we use a lot of historical norms to make that decision. This new thing that we're proposing will actually help us technologically do some different algorithms to work through that process, which is going to bring different problems for us because of traditionalisms that might be broken through that. However, we haven't done yet, I believe, some type of regression model that says by adding 4 or 5 buses would deplete traffic. We haven't done that kind of a study, but we are looking at how to rejuvenate our routing system.
One other thing that piggybacks on that is, we went to a 4-day school week 2 years ago.
Yep.
And extended the day that the hours that the kids are in school. And we've adjusted bus times as well. Is there a legal time frame that a kid can sit on a bus?
No, but best practice is under 1 hour. Yep, but there is no like law, yeah.
And that's 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour at night, or like, if the kid gets picked up first in the morning and he's on there an hour, hopefully he's the first to get
Yeah.
dropped off?
It's
Or she.
in theory, yeah, it's
Okay.
just consecutive time on a bus is you try to limit that by an hour.
Okay.
Under an hour, which most of us are able to do, but we do have a couple hour-long routes, George being one of them, Ripplebrook being one of them. Yeah,
Okay.
We still go to Ripplebrook, huh?
we do still go to Ripplebrook, yeah.
Nicely asked. I do think it would be worth looking at.
Yeah.
Because we have some much closer routes that are bumping up against that hour.
Yes,
And I think to ask, or to propose a little more directly, there's a lot of parents that are taking their kids to school.
Yeah.
Because the bus ride is too long.
right,
And
yeah.
so if we can shorten those bus rides, there's a lot less Honda
Yeah.
pilots coming in. So I don't think it's, we don't need to cancel.
No,
anything
that's,
right
yeah, that's really good.
There's nothing we love Honda
I
pilots.
drive away, I don't know what's wrong with it.
That's the example car. And it's important to note too that we probably need to continue to audit the 1 mile radius as well. Because we've worked very hard to work through that, but it's an unpopular process when the bus drives by your house and you can't get on it. And so that's something we need to work through too. But yeah, by the way, this new thing also, which is another parent voice thing of ours, is we get 100 times a day, where is the bus? And so this new process where parents will be able to have an app and they can literally see where the bus is and is their kid on it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
How
keep-
did we
Okay.
survive as kids?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Moving us ahead, interested in learning why there is such a significant increase in transfer for food service. I show you here some historical information, and we have done a lot of digging into this. And what we can determine is the last couple of years, our salaries have increased, our benefits have increased, and our supplies have increased. And so, and we are collecting and receiving the revenue. You'll see the year that we're down, 21, 22, that is because we were still in or I'm sorry, 21, 22, the state was fully reimbursing us that year. So we're continuing right down the path there. We're increasing salaries, and so the state is still paying the same amount, so.
Yeah, I think without the state full reimbursement, you'd see that 21, 22 be between the 2021 and the 22, 23, right, as a
Yeah.
steady climb that more accurately represents the increase of costs and the increase of
Yes.
salaries. It's just not a good representation of that.
Yeah.
And just so the Budget Committee Board knows, we don't actually do this transfer until the end of the year when we go, okay, this is how much we actually need. But we need to have appropriation approval from you and the board so that we can make that transfer and cover that expense. So if only 50,000 is needed, that will stay in general fund.
One other thing that's noteworthy, it actually is really important for the Budget Committee and the board to know, is the state is in the process of changing how they identify free and reduced lunch students for Oregon as well. And it used to be families had to fill out a form and through that process. Now the state is going to automatically determine who qualifies based on who is eligible for food stamps. And so we actually predict in our community that our food increases are going to rise because we know a lot of our families choose not to participate in the food stamp program, even though they may or may not be eligible. And so this continues to be an area that we can expect to see higher food costs as less kids qualify for free or reduced lunch, which has a higher reimbursable. Yeah.
Okay, going up. What is additional special education entails as part of the additions to the general fund? And so by law, we're mandated to provide special education services. We are wanting, as part of our budget, to empower our special education team to assess and meet the needs of the students in the academic year. So as we already heard, we have an increased number of kindergartners coming in, already identifying. We're wanting to empower the team to make reactions and not us to have to go back and go, okay, well, we don't have budget for this. So we're allocating it up front so that they can respond to the kids.
Curious, so we get a pot of money for special ed, and we've maxed out on that, we know
Yep.
that. Of that pot of money, what is the percentage that is actually going to that population of students?
We are budgeting, we are right-sized. This is the first year ever we have right-sized the special education budget by kid who is being served in special education. So,
That's what this is.
yep, so we get $10,100 per kid. And if they are on an IEP, then we get an additional
you are-
$10,100.
And so we're allocating those
So we-
dollar for dollar to
Yep.
that student.
We did, there are 300 and some odd kids that we think we're going to serve next year in special education. So we did 360-something times 10,100, and that is fully funding our special education department.
Yep.
For the first time ever.
Yep. The next question is the increase in health insurance benefits, just an overall increase in benefits or a change in employees eligible for insurance? So when we are budgeting, we don't know what their selections are gonna be. And so we do budget the most that could cost us. And so then I shared here what the, what our rates are that are going up for next year. So that is also what is increasing.
So if you budget ahead of time and you don't use that money, does that money roll over into the next budget?
Yep, that's.
So it doesn't get put anywhere else, it stays with that health benefit budget?
That is a great question. So we are required by Oregon budget law to fully, we say how much revenue we're gonna get, we have to expend all of that out. So whatever we don't spend, that is our beginning fund balance for the next year. Great question.
And on top of that too, just from a budget standpoint, in order to move any money from one budget item to another item, it has to get board approved.
Yep.
Right, so there's none of that, we're just gonna take it from here and go put it over there and nobody sees it. Anytime there's transfers from one to another, it goes through the board.
I'm gonna quickly answer this question. This is just a breakdown. It's property taxes, the difference between 111 and 112. You are correct. The way the county gives it to us current year, anything in current year goes to 1111, and anything in past year goes to 1112. We're running low on time. So do you want me to continue moving forward, or do you guys want to pause and deliberate?
How about my question answered?
Oh, I can.
So my question for you while you're
A lot.
looking for that, Christina, is the questions that were submitted, did we answer those individually and we're covering them as the group, or is this where all of those answers are coming from?
This is all the answers, yeah.
Okay.
This is the charter school question. So the question was,
This is from Director Walper.
yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing where the revenue income from Summit. And I'm gonna say, yes, you're correct, because we don't have a line that says this is our Summit revenue. So I kind of showed you how to break that out. So the revenue we get from the state includes Summit. So the 30,013,000, that does include Summit. And you see that on page D under 3101. And then we pass through 80% is what we pay them. And you see that on page F under object 360. So showing you on this year's numbers, this year's ADMW for the charter school, next year, they're gonna get paid $10,669 per,
Million?
or, yeah, $10,669.
I understand all that, Christina. I don't like it,
Yeah,
and let me tell you why, okay? That is a feather in our cap. Do you know how many times people have asked me, why aren't we using Eagle Creek School?
Yeah.
I mean, again and again and again. That should be upfront
and not hidden away.
Yeah, so it's this Oregon accounting codes, we have to recognize the revenue and the expenditures. But we could do something, if the board wishes, on our monthly reports to show. I'm happy to do that, because I agree, it's not something we're trying to hide, we're just following Oregon budget law.
Yeah, we could probably do that from a communications perspective.
Yeah.
A whole lot better in terms of what the profit or what we're utilizing the money to help kids with.
Right.
And that's more probably of a communications task for us, based on the compliance of how we report our budget. But that's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we could absolutely be better at. Yeah,
I think it'd be a benefit for us.
I agree. Yeah.
It's something that I can identify monthly when I make my charter school payment, I can make that.
Sure, great, thank you. Yeah. And I get that question a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other note, some of the questions were just questions about individual objects. The one question that I really liked, is there an annual process to internally review budget to actual? And I just wanted to let you know that we do. We set up budget control groups for each department, building, and grant. And that allows them then to go in and check to where they are, to where they budgeted. It also sets it up so they are not allowed to go over their budget. And I also do my own monitoring that, and I have meetings with leaders, grant leaders, building leaders.
Perfect.
I mean, all questions are important, but we do budget, we manage our budget to actuals.
There's some accountability there.
Yes.
I
Yes?
have a question. Since we are running short on time, I'm wondering if there's any question that you wanted to pull out, that somebody'd asked something that you felt really needed for us to discuss tonight. And then can these questions, because I think a lot of people would be interested in reading them and reading the answers, could they get posted on the budget page
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah,
So
I like
people
that.
can review?
yeah.
Okay.
I definitely could do that. I can post them on my budget page. I can do that. I could post my Budget 101, and then I can post today's presentation. Just one of the general comments I noticed, there was some questions individually about objects, like we've budgeted here, but this current year, we've already spent. And as we go through, do our monitoring on our budget to actuals, we can do budget adjustments within objects. Like I can move it from supplies to depreciable equipment. I just can't move it out of the functions, because that's what the board and budget are appropriating so I have to keep it in instructional services, but I can move it between objects. Is that because some of the questions you can see here is related directly to individual objects. And so we do have some ways to monitor and move the budget within that. Just one of the things, our rental, again, we did our leasing the property down at 325 Broadway, so you'll see we do have rental expense in that, and we also have some additional tuition revenue that we're proposing for that.
But also with that rent expense, we're taking that ADM for those kids and applying that. So we're just redeploying funds that we receive for the kids that are in the program.
Correct.
And using that down there.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Well
so
said.
it's a separate line item, but it was just spent in other ways. And so that's part of it. The other thing I would say is, when you look at by object, if we go back in time, we didn't do a great job, and I'm like back in time.
Yeah.
7, 8, 9 years ago, of really budgeting by the object. It was more of just like throw it in the area and whatever it is, and so you'd have like huge variances where supplies would be over by 500%, but a different one within that category was significantly under, and so there's been
Yeah.
a lot of work to try to get that as close as we can. But when you manage it that tightly, then you're gonna have a lot of variances, they're just gonna be smaller variances, and it's
Yeah.
still totally fine to have those, but it's better to have a bunch of small variances than one big one at the end where it's like, where the heck was this supposed to be? And
Yeah.
you look like you can't budget at all. So that was previous director of finance to current director of finance in those areas.
As we've
Nice.
given our budgeting out to our budget, our leaders, our department leaders, they have the control. Like, one of the questions is, why is our 322 going down? It's because the leaders have determined that they want to move that to a different line in their budget. So it's multiple, it's not just one line that we're looking at, it's multiple different budgets throughout the district that are lowering it. So just things like that. They're managing their budgets, and they have authority to spend their budgets as they see for next year is gonna best fit.
So you mentioned the website that you wanted to put these questions on. Is that common knowledge throughout the parental, whoever have kids in the district? They all know that this website exists?
Yes,
So
that-
they can access it, freely?
Absolutely. Yep, as can the public, and it's just on the Estacada School District website. If there's a whole business and financial tab where the citizen can click and they can look at this document that we're looking at now. They can ask questions, they can contact Christina, all of the above.
I think these are really helpful questions, really thoughtful.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of people will enjoy and learn,
Yes.
reading them.
I agree. And thank you for taking the time to ask them, too. They were great questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can always reply just to me if you
Well,
want.
No, I think,
Yeah.
I think it's important to share. I mean, if you guys have questions, I want that to come out to our public. I want us to be as transparent.
We're trying to do our due
Yeah.
diligence,
Yeah,
right?
you do a great job.
And I want to show how much hard work that you guys do, that it's not just, bring it and it's done. You guys do a lot of work in helping us prepare our budget.
Well, not me so much, because I'm just getting started. Well, but the board has not said that they accept me or not yet.
Yep,
You're
that'll be
interning
great.
right now.
But the pay is the same, just to be clear.
0 is 0.
Zero still says zero,
How you
yep.
add it up.
Okay, I'm going to pass it back to you now.
All right, I was just saying, did we have any public comments, I guess? That's the next thing.
No, there was none.
Okay. Then we need to deliberate.
I looked at my email that I sent Christina to make sure like my big ones got addressed.
So
and
did I.
I feel good about that.
I guess, is there any other deliberations that anybody wants to have? Okay, well, then I am going to ask for a motion to approve the budget.
Is there an exhibit A that we're supposed to
Yeah.
read?
What?
Is that-
Oh.
is that-
Oh, yeah, can you hand that? Yeah, I guess they have to hand that out too. Sorry, I didn't give it to everyone.
You asked for it.
Okay, all right. Ralph's not
And then
here,
I
so
need to
somebody's
read
got to
it,
read it.
right?
Nice.
Not the full, not the whole numbers. Mm-mm.
Okay, so I just need to ask for a motion to approve the budget, or do we need to?
The budget and the taxes, so both,
and the
both parts, that whole first section.
Oh, okay.
You just don't have to go line by line through the
I
numbers.
got
This whole thing right
Yeah,
goes
mhm,
first.
exactly.
Okay, so be it,
Yep,
be it moved that the Budget Committee of Estacada School District hereby approves the 2024-25 proposed budget in the sum of $67,385,188. Be it moved that the requirements for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and for the purposes shown below are hereby approved to be appropriated, provided however, that the sum of the, proportion, I can't even say that word.
appropriation.
Thank you. Appropriation is limited to the available resources. And be it moved, number one, a tax rate of 4.1476 per 1,000 of assessed value in support of the general fund. And number two, a tax amount of $2,514,425 in support of the debt service fund.
Very good. Good job. Yes, good job. Okay.
So we need
So,
a
do I have
motion.
a motion?
It could be anybody.
Anybody?
Anyone?
I'll move that, I'll make that
Right,
motion.
Then I need a second, correct? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries?
Okay. So, we're done.
I will say, though, I do appreciate your work, and I promise to commit to sharing any changes to the budget or that the board does, or anything that we bring to the board in regards to the budget.
That'd be awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And then, so, this goes to the board for our June meeting.
Correct.
Just the baton's yours now, Ben.
Yes.
Ken's,
Ken,
Yeah.
do with it what you may.
okay?
Thank you, and great
Thank you all
job.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the hard work, so couldn't do it without you.
Thank you guys so much.
Nice job.
Thank you. And I will post those,
why can't we
that'll
have
be
a
posted tomorrow
subline
morning, and I'll share the link with you guys.
We've got
Elena, we're gonna do
for
some gavel
the
practice. There's two of us.
apologize to you for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.